Hello everyone, this is Kurse here, and I know it's been a long time, but I'm here to show you something that I should have shown you a long time ago. It is called Epic Chords. This is comprised of 4 sounds made in Synth mostly. Now, you may think that it's quite difficult to make this, and I've been scouring the internet for tutorials, but I actually made it by accident one day where I was just experimenting with Synth 1, which is a very, very, very powerful synth I recently discovered. Could possibly be more powerful than Massive in some cases, but I recently switched over to Synth 1 in terms of polyphonic synths like Chords, ARPs, and heavy leads because there's just more power in this synth, if I'm honest. However, I'm going to show you the sound that all that matters. That doesn't matter, sorry. So it's comprised of the 4 sounds. The first one is the chords. And as you can hear in there, that it is, it's got a bit of white noise on the top, and it's got mostly made up by Sawtooth. Sawtooths. It's very simple, so I'm just going to show you here. The volume is all the way up, phase all the way down, detuned to about, I think it's 2.48. The voices are set to 8. That's the first oscillator. Oscillator 2, it's a square wave with 4 voices. Volume set to 6.43. Phase is pretty much central at 12 o'clock. Detune is all the way down. Stereo all the way up, pan where it normally is. I've also got the polyphony set to 16. On part B here, I've got another Sawtooth wave, and it has the volume set to about 12 o'clock again, detune 2.19. Pan, as is, stereo as it is. Notice I've got nothing going on in the envelopes, by the way, absolutely nothing's going on in the envelopes. And I've got a little bit of white noise just on the top, but you have to be careful with this. Okay, so add it as you see fit. I've got one voice, no detune, stereo, pan, whatever, or phase, and the volume is all the way down at 1.05. However, you'll probably need to tweak that quite a bit. It's quite important to tweak it, because too much, can give you a horrible hissing noise which destroys your drums. Too little doesn't punch through the mix enough, so you need to be very careful. I've also got a little bit of reverb on here. Reverb is entirely experimental. You can use some release time on it instead if you want. However, I'll tell you what I've got here. The size is 2.93. The width is 57.62%. The dry wet is 59.52%. Damp all the way down, pre-delay all the way down. Okay, and that's the chord synth. Moving on to the sub bass. The sub bass is so simple, you will not believe. It's basically 3x oscillator with all of the oscillators set to sine waves with the chorus all the way down, and it pitched to about C3. And it's so low that you can't really hear much of the harmonics, so you really need headphones to hear that. Moving on, this is the Sawtooth bass. This is the bass that sort of sits between the chords and the sub bass, so it's quite important to get this just right. For that, again, it's very simple. It is just one oscillator, which has a sawtooth wave, 4 voices, and octave set to -1. No detune, no phase, full volume, stereo all the way up, pan, all the regular stuff. However, it's got a compressor on here with a compressor ratio set to 2.92 to 1, threshold at -18.29 dB, the compression attack at 15.10 milliseconds, and the release is at 150.7 milliseconds. Did I say milliliters or milliseconds? I don't know, I can't English today. And last but not least, the sort of the icing on the cake, something that I added in because I like this. It's just a lead to sort of sit on top. This one is just a personal lead that you can put whatever you want on top, but for me, I want to make this kind of thing in here because it sounds really nice. If you want to copy this, the first one is I don't quite know what you call it. I think it's an H pulse. Yeah, H pulse wave. The phase set to about 12 o'clock, detune 3.62, voices to stereo all the way pan, you know where it is. Nothing with the envelope. And the second oscillator is a Sawtooth wave with the volume at 7.81, phase at 116.57 degrees, detune 1.95, and the voice is set to 2. I've got retrig on. You need to pay attention. I don't have retrig on at all usually, but I do for just this one high synth. So chord, high synth, saw bass, sub bass. Okay, I'll show you the actual progression for these chords. I don't know exactly how to say like what it is, but you don't really want to have this really boring samey thing where a lot of people do it is if they have a D5 note on the top, they'll just put D4 on, and that sounds really naff sometimes or really flat. So instead, if you have a chord, if you have it like that, instead of the, sounds really naff. So it sounds a lot more interesting if you put this down to whatever note is your second note here. Just gives it a bit more weight to it. Doesn't sound just samey, sounds more interesting. And you can mess around with how many notes are in each chord. Sometimes there's 5 in here, sometimes there's just 4. Just mess around just to hear the different harmonics and stuff like that. So it's good practice to think 4 notes in a chord with your first note, and then 2 to 3 semitones below, and then 3 to 4 semitones below that, and then one which is, I think it's 6 to 7 semitones underneath that. So we'll just do that. Very nice. Sub bass should be sitting on the bottom note. So for instance, my bottom note is B3, so I got it to B3, however, because it's quite a low bass, I set it to B2 instead. Keep it on the bottom note, give it more depth and weight. Putting it up at like halfway just sounds weird. What else? Oh yeah, the Sawtooth bass, exactly the same. Keep it an octave above the sub bass so that it still cuts through the mix and sounds nice and feathered. And the lead, you put it wherever you want, girl, because that lead's got swag and style. And you don't, because you're a tramp. Sorry. So that's these effects. That's these instruments. Let's look at the effects. So the chord has a parametric EQ2 on it, like all synths do, and it's basically high passing at about 100 hertz here. A little bit of boost, very tiny boost on the high there, but that's just white noise can come out a little bit. Only really effective for this song. Sometimes you may want to cut it just a little bit, or whatever. Maybe have some like crazy EQing going on there. However, for this song, I don't feel it was necessary. I've also got a compressor on here in case the sound loses its tightness, with the threshold at negative 13.3 dB, ratio 5.9 to 1, gain at 8 dB, attack at 93.1 milliseconds, and the release at 200 milliseconds, and the type of compressor is hard. Limiters on here just for side chaining. Ignore this. Ignore that. What else? Yes, the sub bass. No, the saw bass. Sorry. Cut it at about 60 hertz. Shelving, of course. That's a high pass, and low pass at about 56,000 hertz. Just because you don't want it interfering with the high section too much. See, the important thing here, this is mixing and balance. This is very good practice. Is that always think about your synths in layers. Always layer your synths because it always sounds better. And always think of it like a cake, where the sub bass is the base of the cake. The saw bass is the nice creamy jammy stuff just on top of the bass. The the chord is the sponge, and the lead is the icing. So if you have too much of one thing, then it's just going to ruin the whole cake. Like if the bass is too much, there's too much bass of the cake, then you're going to lose a lot of the actual like flavor and consistency. And this is getting way out of hand. Moving on, just be careful to mix properly. Mixing 101. On the sub bass now, you always low pass the sub bass to where the frequency is at its most predominant. For some reason it's not playing. Oh yeah. You probably won't really be able to hear this unless you have your headphones turned right the way up. If you're using headphones, that is. And you see here that it started standing around here, and there's just these little like tailored bits, these little pinky bits going past there. I would usually cut that because this is just mud. This is just frequencies escaping, and if you don't keep a hold of them, then they'll bleed through into the saw bass's frequencies. Oh, whoops. I keep on doing that where it gets all muddled up. So you just need to be very careful and tight. I also cut it at about 24 Hertz. Doesn't really make a huge difference, but it matters with Kika sitting in the mix as well. Besides, when you're mastering the track, you'll probably cut about 30 Hertz anyway. And finally, the lead synth. Oh, okay. Which has got nothing on it because I'm an idiot. So you kind of want to high pass this. So again, no frequencies getting through, and it sounds good. Just about there, maybe bring it down. And that's all the important things. If you want to sound like Dillon Francis or the M Machine or Madeon even, then you'll have your chords just like this. Oh. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I hope this tutorial helped. I know that I've been searching for how to do this for over 2 years now, and I really hope this helps out anyone who's looking for it. Thank you, and stay tuned for more videos in the foreseeable future.